Mankind must put an end to war. A war will put an end to mankind.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Well, I'm not drunk. I learned everything I got.
Change will not come if we wait for some other person.
Hey, Internet Land, here we are with another spine-tingling, riveting episode of the Blind Partisan show. And today I have Chris Wery here. He's District 8 Alderman, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Correcto mundo.
Yeah. And, you have one of those really difficult to pronounce names. So I really stumbled over it like I do with everyone else. I'm terrible with names.
I've heard worry, I've heard weary. Either one. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm so excited to be here.
I know. Well, you did make time in your busy afternoon, and I appreciate that. So how things going?
No, glad to be here. Always good to see Elliot. Going good.
Yeah. So we have a lot of different things we could talk about. So I guess let's kind of start with, have you been like knocking doors, listening to constituents, anything like that?
Yeah, I pretty much started I do it year round pretty much. I had a newsletter that I did last year and I go around and talk to everybody. And then I started right away in January because we had a primary. So getting a little burnt out, but it's in the home stretch. So
what have you been hearing from the people?
Well, people like to talk about downtown. They want to know what's going on with the Northland. In my district, everybody wants to ask about the pool. They ask about that. Some people will ask about the Bullfrogs. Not as many as I thought. Maybe because it's moving out by my district. So for some, it's actually moving closer.
So let's take those kind of in reverse. Was there anything else in there? Okay.
No. So wheel tax, obviously, that came up too.
I won't let you escape without talking about that. So everybody's gonna
wouldn't expect it.
Everyone's gonna get so sick of hearing about it. They're just gonna say, "Fine, no wheel tax." So bullfrogs.
Bullfrogs.
Give me, your take, constituent take. What's the deal?
Well, the bullfrogs. And this is how I explain it to people at the door who are just, asking about it and only see it from the outside.
Yeah.
Where we were going to build the bullfrogs, there was nothing there, right? I mean, literally nothing. So we had to construct a TIF district and build up the things around it that would pay for the infrastructure. And that's what took so long. Honestly, those different parties, whether it was, the restaurant or the concert hall, the Bullfrogs, or, some of the other businesses or apartments that were going to be coming around it, trying to coordinate those all and get the plans ready is what took so long. And at the very end, all the plans were ready to go, and Ashwaubenon already had a TIF district and money in place. They just took it out and plopped it over into theirs.
Do you think it's as simple as that? You don't think it took too long?
Well, and it very well could have. There were a lot of moving parts, like I said. At some points, the people who own the concert hall and the restaurant wanted the city to own them and lease it to them. And there was a lot of pushback on the council. We didn't want to own a concert hall and we didn't want to own a restaurant. So we put it back to them and said, no, we don't want to own it. We came back with, well, how about with the restaurant? We try it out for 3 years. And we kick it around. If we don't like it, then you can buy it back. I'm like, no, we still don't want to own a restaurant, right? We're not going to be in the restaurant business. So there were a lot of those things going on. The Bullfrogs, to their credit, probably the easiest part of it all.
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. This is the first time that I've heard anybody really put any kind of positive spin on this at all.
Well,
so I'm a little taken aback.
The Bullfrogs were great to work with. I mean, they had a great vision. They knew what they wanted. I mean, we had to work out some parking issues and different revenue issues. And, I really wanted to make sure if the Bullfrogs themselves went belly up, that the league was going to put a team in there. And we weren't going to be stuck with a stadium and no team. And they managed to get that worked in. So that's
my big fear.
Yeah. And
that's what I felt about the whole thing. I'm like, fast tracking it for Ashwaubenon. I'm like, well, you know what? We'll find out in 20 years, how this all worked out. That's super interesting. So, so your take on it, are we on track to, get something there still?
I don't know. I honestly have
years again.
I have not heard anything from the Economic Development Department or the mayor. I understand they're working on something, but I haven't seen any of it. So
cool. Okay. All right. Pool. Okay. So I just saw something this morning that looked like it said 10 million. Is that an actual number? 10 million associated with the pool, or is that something else? I don't know.
No, I'm not sure what that number is. That could be people trying to extrapolate out 50 years. Who knows?
Okay.
No, the pool itself, obviously, we've been working on it for I don't know, it seems like a decade now. It's probably been like 6 or 8 years. Take you back just a little bit. We had the $1 million raised, right? Mm-hmm. The initial consultant thought it was going to be $4.5 million, and that's what we went off of. Turns out he was way off. Mm-hmm. The next consultant we had was pretty close on. So the bids came in. It was high. It got approved. The mayor vetoed it. We came back with another plan, actually 4 plans, 3 smaller ones, and a remodel of the pool. And we went with the remodel of the pool because the cost of the smaller pools were almost the same, plus you lost all the fundraised money. So it made it pretty much a wash. So we went with the remodel of the pool. Bids came in. They were higher than expected by not as much, but we still have that gap, and that's where we're at right now. I'm actually meeting with the mayor later today. We're working on trying to make it something that he can be on board with. So
what does that mean? Like, what kind of things can we do if we're short $1 million or $2 million?
Well, there are a couple different things. When you change, in speaking with park staff, they can change their programming there and make it a centerpiece of the parks program, and increase your programming. Increase what you do there at all different times, earlier in the season, late in the season, and really draw more revenue from that programming. That's one piece. The second piece would be the swim meets themselves. Now, the YMCA would host one, and the swim clubs would host one. Charge more for that. It wildly varies on what you can make. It'd probably be less when they first start, and then as they get bigger, you can make more. But
can we actually
just charge a bigger piece of the pie?
Ashwaubenon has a pool. Appleton has a pool. Yeah. So can we actually do that? Like, if we raise the price, won't they just say?
Well, I mean for the swim meets.
Yeah,
not the price of just attending the pool. It would be
but I mean, for the swim meets. So I mean,
yeah,
can't they just go somewhere else?
Because the only other ones really are Appleton, Fond du Lac, Eau Claire.
The region. Ashwaubenon was building a pool too, though.
They are, but theirs is the smaller one. Theirs is more of the short track, I guess it's called.
Okay.
Short pool. Yeah.
Okay.
And speaking with the YMCA, they're very excited to get going on hosting these, and they have their projections for income on these meets, and theirs are more than we even thought, and they're willing to give most of that back to the city. So
they're on board if they have to charge a little more? Have you talked to them about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're the ones that provided the numbers, and then the swim clubs are fine with their numbers. So
I just, I do struggle with it because, it's March, and I wouldn't go to an outdoor pool in March, and I wouldn't go to an outdoor pool in September, probably even. So.
Well, that's what's interesting about the swim club members. They like it cooler. So if we can open it up in May and keep it open into September, they're going to use it. They like it cooler. We also found out more information from Appleton and Eau Claire, what they make an economic impact, actual numbers from them. Appleton is more about $150,000 per meet, so they make about a quarter or $300,000 every summer. Okay. Eau Claire makes $500,000 because they have bigger meets.
Okay, but when you say economic impact, that's not all cash back to the city.
No, that would be people coming into town, eating, restaurants, shopping.
Okay. Yeah. But in our case, a lot of those people are going to go to Ashwaubenon.
Possible.
Shop, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure it's same in Appleton. They go to Grand Chute or whatever, yeah.
So they're saying the economic impact to
regionally.
Appleton? Regional.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I don't know. I'd have to clarify that with Appleton.
I mean, that's all cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't hate on Ashwaubenon, but then they should have to pay too. Like that's the only thing. Okay.
Enough on the pool.
Yeah. Well,
I just wanted to say also with the pool.
I don't want to talk about the pool at all.
I know. Believe me, that's all I talk about. With the pool, there's this misconception with some, not all, that it's being made into this ginormous pool and it's going to be huge. It's going to be the same size.
Yeah.
When it's rebuilt, it's going to be in the same footprint. They're going to bump out one fence so you can sit actually on the grass, which will be nice on a hill.
Oh. Okay.
So that's nice. Otherwise, it's pretty much going to be the same. It's going to be lined. They're going to make the diving well deeper. We're putting in 0 depth entries so we can attract more of the young and the aged, the people with infirmities, I guess, because, I mean, like my wife has trouble. She walks with a cane. That's great for that. So
absolutely. Okay.
Increase the concession revenue. Okay. I can go on the pool forever, but
I mean, so when I see these like multiple millions of dollars, and then I hear that we don't have money for our roads, or that we have to, hit somebody with a $2,700 bill to fix their street, like those things.
Good segue into wheel tax.
Really, that bugs the hell out of me.
Sure.
If you were to ask, and I've said this before, if you were to ask, 100 people, you pay property tax. Mm-hmm. What is it you think your property taxes pay for?
Well,
I'm pretty sure roads would be
definitely,
the top.
definitely, but they don't have to be one or the other, right? It can be keep our infrastructure, keep what we have and replace it, which is what we're doing. We're not dreaming up something. We're replacing infrastructure and keep our roads up.
Yep.
Definitely. And that's where we kind of come to the wheel tax. Are we at the point where we're going to stick with charging the people who live along the streets and just borrow more as a city and do more streets? Or are we at the point where do away with those assessments, charge a wheel tax, get it into a pool of money, and just when your road comes up, when it's time to be done, it's done. Boom, boom, boom.
Why can't we just have that come from our regular budget?
Well, that's a great question, and if you could find a spot to put it, I'd be all open.
Well,
I really would.
Take what it costs and put it in the budget, and then everything else is below that.
Yeah.
And they get cut accordingly. Or you have to raise taxes.
Well, and
because that's what this is. This is a new tax.
Well,
so why don't we just raise?
Yeah, I mean, you're replacing one, right? You're replacing an assessment with the wheel tax, and there's no. I mean, I've been for the wheel tax, but I've said
it's hidden though. I hate hidden taxes like that. Is it's $20 now. Oh, it'll be so easy to just make it $25.
Well, and that's a danger, and as we saw when the mayor put it in his budget, he put it in his budget, and that caused a lot of consternation because it's supposed to be a segregated fund, only used for roads. We wanted no appearance or ability to use it anywhere else because that would be. I mean, we've seen it everywhere.
So the thing is, you can't. It's so hard to pass rules to tie the hands of future mayors and future councils because they can change it with a vote.
You're right.
So this is why I'm against doing it in the first place. Because I have this fear. In Milwaukee, it's $50.
Wow. Yeah.
Because they have a $30 county. So well, the city has one. The county should have one too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just see how these things and everything's not a slippery slope, and everything isn't dominoes falling. But the average person on the street is not even going to know that they pay that or what it's for.
I guess if it's used correctly, then we would all agree it might be a good funding mechanism because you do get, and I speak to people all the time who are on a fixed income. Mm-hmm. They don't drive much, and they get hit with the $1,500 or $1,800 assessment, and that is a ginormous expense for them.
$1,800 for anybody in Green Bay is
it's big.
Yeah.
So
like nobody budgeted for that.
No.
And I mean nobody. You could be wealthy and have a few thousand in the bank, but if you have a few thousand in the bank, you probably don't have it just sitting in your checking account. Right. Like nobody has just liquid thousands of dollars to spend.
So I'll say that's been something I've asked when I go door to door. I ask them their opinion because I want to represent them. It's not my idea. I'm not going to just push my agenda. People by about a 2/3 margin so far have been in favor of the wheel tax, and I've tried to explain to them the positives and the negatives. I mean, they need to know what they're giving their opinion on.
But the option that nobody is talking about is just cutting and raising the regular.
I guess you'd have to know where you're cutting, right, or increasing the
have it part of the regular budget, and then talk about it. I'm pretty confident that most people, if presented with, okay, we have these 5 things, one of them's got to be last. Yeah, roads is not going to be that.
No, probably first.
Yeah, and I mean, especially now because I think people have this. And maybe it's more perception than reality, but they have this perception anyway that our roads are in terrible shape.
Right.
And that, we can spend money on economic development, but if we have this perception that our roads are bad, I wouldn't want to bring my business here. I mean, when I think about like what a city government is supposed to do, infrastructure, we got to have good, clean water. We got to have roads that are travelable and, maybe some other stuff. But like those things are like
that's police, fire,
like
and then last.
There's just like these basic things. Like I would put all of those things you mentioned above garbage collection, investment in pools, investment in hotels. And I hear these things. It's free money. Yeah, no, it's not free.
The TIF, right? Usually when it involves TIF, it's free money. But problem with TIF is you want it to close at some point so the rest of the city can enjoy what you built.
Yes.
Problem is those TIFs keep going and going and going and going and going, and that's when you run into. I mean, I think we're all looking forward to when that Far East Side TIF that has all that development, when that can finally come online. That's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
So
let's, what these things, why are they taking so long?
Well, I think, I know when the state changed that TIFs no longer have to just be for their area, when they can be donor TIFs. When they're pretty much built out but are generating an awful lot of money, they can now prop up all the other TIFs. And that's what prolongs their life.
I think that's a problem.
Yep.
TIFs were intended to, as a last resort sort of mechanism for blighted areas.
Yeah, well, like where the Bullfrogs were. There was nothing there, and you had to build it from ground zero.
Yeah. I mean, I still feel like somebody would build something there. I mean,
Yeah.
And we could say, like, if there's, environmental cleanup that has to happen, maybe we pay for that. I think people would be in favor of that. Coming from our general budget, we had to do some environmental cleanup, right? Like these things, they just seem so complicated and like almost unnecessarily so. And maybe it's my tiny little brain covered by my
Always a possibility.
I just wish and I hope that maybe ask people about that. What about just raising our property taxes? What Randy had said to me was we can't because we're at the limit. And so then we have to, oh my gosh, go to a referendum for it.
Yeah.
I think we should. I think that's totally fine. Rather than, I feel like if the choice is between having a referendum or having a wheel tax snuck in, I know which one feels less sneaky to me.
Well, that's a good point. Good points.
And the other thing is, and I thought Randy would be more on board with the anti-wheel taxes. It's regressive.
Yeah.
It is a regressive tax, So if you're talking to elderly people, you're talking to single moms, widows. That's not nothing. That extra $20 a year that could balloon to be 50. That's not nothing.
Right.
It's regressive.
No, those are all good points.
And
yes.
like people that are making middle income or better, like we can take that in stride. $50, $20, well, yeah, that's fine. It's not that big of a deal. But most of these other people, I think, like that is it's a hidden thing that they're not even going to know about, and then now it costs $20 more. That's my fear.
Very good. And just as a point of information, I get asked a lot. Motorcycles aren't included in either our collector cars. I get asked about that all the time.
So the other thing that I heard, and I'm not sure in the numbers, and I know maybe you guys aren't either.
Yeah.
So it's maybe unfair criticism, but the wheel tax isn't going to cover the whole thing. So we're still going to have at least a partial, payment from homeowners when these things come up.
Well, it would cover the road work.
Okay.
Yeah, asphalt work and reconstruction work.
So the wheel tax will cover all of that?
Yeah, anything above ground. Now, if there's some massive underground work that needs to be done, that could be assessed. But a lot of times the water utility will pay for that. So it might not cover it for commercial all the way. Residential, yes, but not commercial. So
yeah, and I worry about that too. Because when I look at let's say FedEx. No, FedEx is the bad example because they're not in Green Bay. Mm-hmm. But UPS, I think.
Yeah, they're.
And, so they have, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they register their trucks and how that situation works. But, so they decided to put their base in Green Bay. So we're going to charge them assessments and wheel tax. Like that's.
Well, I think they're probably exempt from the wheel tax. I think the state has some built-in things. If you're over a certain size, we can't assess them, which
okay,
wonderful. They wear the roads out the most, and yet we can't assess them. So.
Okay, well that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, so is that where? See, and I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
So is that where charging businesses is coming?
Right,
from?
because they're kind of getting around it anyway if they have bigger vehicles. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but that's based on frontage.
For assessing, yeah, that's per foot. Yeah.
So, if I got a business on a corner, sucks to be me, huh?
Well, yeah, if you have corner lots, you get a 50%, so you end up paying less. But
you do?
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
Corner lots pay less, less than they would just the full assessment.
Okay.
Because sometimes they can get nailed 2 years in a row.
So, so some of these things are good,
yeah.
but they are, it complicates all this stuff. And then, nobody knows and all this misinformation.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, that was a fun talk about wheel tax. Everyone's asleep now. Hello.
I think they were sleeping anyway. I put these on when I go to bed, and I'm out in less than 20 minutes.
No, why?
Yeah. So I don't know what else we got.
What else do we have?
I don't know. Did we talk about Northland? Not really.
Not really.
Is there anything?
I'm not necessarily the expert on that,
yeah.
but I think everybody's looking forward to that being opened in fall and getting through all the mess.
So talking to some of the new candidates,
yep.
The thing they're talking about the most, I would say that's not these
sure.
topics, right?
Yep.
Is the
civility and decorum. I mean, that's, I think, what everyone I watched and every flyer I've seen is civility and decorum, civility and decorum. It's interesting. A guy, Zima actually, at our council meeting this week, read an article from the Press Gazette from 1978. He read almost the whole thing, and it was talking about how, why can't the city council and mayor get along? And everybody had quotes about the reasons why, and it was...
So is he trying to prove that it's all him?
Well, I think he was on the council back then. That might have been his first year, right? I don't know if he had any quotes in there, though. It was all the other aldermen from 40 years ago.
Right.
I forgot what mayor it was, Montfiles, or I'm not sure who it was.
So you think it's a non-issue?
For the most part. I mean, when you get a healthy democracy, you're going to get people disagreeing. And if you look at the council most of the time, 99% of the time, if you come before a meeting, after, we get along quite fine. We really do.
So it's just when the cameras are rolling?
Well, as I think we all know, two people on our council and the mayor, Guy and the mayor, are like fire and water. And that's, they don't get along real well. And
So I don't know all the way back, but Guy had some issues with Paul Jaden.
yeah,
I mean,
I think, Guy always views himself as that person who has to be the devil's advocate no matter what. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. He calls me Boy Scout. That's his nickname for me because I apparently am.
oh, that's
too
way
nice.
better than
So
Lucy.
I'm a Boy Scout. Yeah, and that's fine. I view that as a compliment.
Yeah, that's not necessarily derogatory.
No, I sit next to him. I've learned not to take things personally with Guy.
Batman calls Superman Boy Scout.
That's right. He does. You're right. Yeah. Now, does Guy go too far? Certainly. Sometimes his mouth gets ahead of his brain, right? But we all do that.
I certainly do that. You've probably done that on occasion.
I'm certainly not perfect. I'm not going to fall in that category.
So, is it overblown? I don't feel like it is overblown. I feel like I have it burned in my memory now where, playing for the TV cameras,
Yep.
the mayor and Zima are holding things
Oh,
up
yeah.
and
Yeah, see, and it's those two again.
I-
You remove those two, and you look at the other 11, we get along really well.
well, one of them is being removed. He's not going to
Yeah.
be up for a re-election.
Yeah,
So,
right.
Is it fixed then?
I don't know. And it's up to the people in Guy's district. Do they value what he brings to the table, or do they think his negatives are more? And we're going to find out. You live in his district, right?
No, I don't anymore.
Oh, you don't? Well,
No.
moved into a good district, District 8?
I'm not in your district either. I'm in, what number am I in? I don't know. The one that I haven't talked to anybody with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's up to them. I grew up in his neighborhood, and I know people on both sides, people who can't stand him and people who love him.
So, I'm with you a little bit. I'm not a Boy Scout. If something isn't right, I'm not going to let it rest necessarily. So, I can appreciate that part of it. But there are some limits to how that should be approached, right?
I'll tell you, usually when you're at meetings, it's incumbent on the chair, whoever's chairing it, whether it's council meetings, the mayor, or at a committee meeting, the person running the meeting. Guy, when I first took over protection and welfare, I bought a gavel because of Guy. I don't yell over people at meetings. You should not have to yell over people. So I bought a gavel. You just bang it down until they stop talking, and that's it. It's the person who runs the meeting who should take control. And if you can't get control, you adjourn. Or you say, hey, we're taking a break. You really need to be aggressive with that.
Okay, so you found yourself on the opposite end of agreeing with the mayor on some things, though. So if things were getting kind of unruly, he should have just put an end to it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If he thinks, and he has actually been doing, I think, a better job the last 6 months. He's been using his gavel a lot more. I would give him credit. He's trying harder on that.
Well, there's a certain relief to knowing that you're not long for this world.
True. Maybe it's freeing him up. Yeah. No, but to be fair, the mayor and I have agreed on a lot of things too. We've probably agreed on 90% of his things. So.
Well, I would say at least, and
Yeah.
I think that goes across the board.
Yeah.
I think that most things are. You see it with the agendas. There's I don't know, 50 things in the agenda.
Yeah.
48 of them are like
Boom, boom, boom,
yay,
boom. It's just
yay.
a few high.
And then we have this one thing.
Yep.
And sometimes the debate is worthwhile, and sometimes it is a little much.
Yeah.
And
Welcome to democracy, I guess.
well,
right?
so okay, I guess what I'm trying to say without saying it is, what about term limits?
Yeah. I personally don't believe in them. I think if you're not doing your job, you'll get booted. I do. We've seen that with plenty of people who've been on council quite a while, and then they lose.
Right.
They stop doing the little things for their district, and they think they're invincible, and then they're gone.
But the job isn't just for your district, though. The thing is, the job is for the city.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So, I think you could make your district happy, and the rest of the city could be really unhappy with you.
Well, it's quite possible. Sure.
And I think that is I think that's the situation that he finds himself in, and and maybe all the incumbents find themselves into a lesser extent.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people are just amazed.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I think there's some people that are amazed that you won last time.
Oh, well, I work hard. I mean, that's one thing I do. I enjoy my job. I love visiting with people. These are people I grew up with a lot and their parents. So I love going door to door, and you become part of their family. You become less their alderman and part of their family. I mean, you can go to their house and you'll spend an hour.
Yeah.
Honestly. And you care about them, and they care about you, and you want to get things done for them. And that's kind of where I'm at right now is I love my district. I do. And I put out a newsletter every year, so I'm always seeing them all the time. And I know what's going on in their block and in their neighborhood and in the parks. It's just that's the fun part about being an alderman. It's not all the meetings and all that stuff. It's helping people in the neighborhood.
Right.
And if you don't want to do that, don't be an alderman. Don't get into it to be in on the news media and talk about these big projects, because that's a small part of your job. You're going to come home to 20 emails and 10 calls.
Right.
It's
equally aggravating too. A lot of times when you have the media, it's like, you don't want the media.
Well, but I think people should know when they get into it, it's a lot of emails, calls, visiting people over and over and over and over. And if you don't like that, don't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to stop. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, hear more about you, how can they find it?
Facebook page, Alderman Chris Wery, District 8. Email's pretty easy, chriswery@att.net, or you can call me, 490-9282. I'm not hiding anywhere.
Yeah, cool. And the election is when?
It is April 3rd.
Okay, coming up a week from Tuesday, right?
Yes.
So I think that wraps up. Jacob's giving me the slit my throat signal, so we're wrapping up. This. If you'd like to talk more about how I went too soft on Chris Wery, please join me on the Facebook group, Blind Partisan. And please subscribe on YouTube and in iTunes and in Stitcher and anywhere you can find podcasts. I have a face for radio, so I would prefer the audio version, but go to YouTube and please hit that subscribe button. That's all I got. Oh, bye.